Welcome in, everybody. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the latest financials from Godrej Industries. Now, Godrej may not be a household name for everyone, but I guarantee you probably use their products every day. We've got reports and updates straight from the company, and even some analysis from their auditors. So it's like a behind-the-scenes look at a business giant.
It's interesting because Godrej Industries is a bit of a conglomerate, right? They got a hand in everything from like the soap you use in the shower to huge property developments you see going up.
Okay, so big picture first. Godrej Industries posted a 229% jump in net profit for Q2 compared to last year. I mean, that sounds impressive, sure, but what I want to know is what's really driving that kind of increase?
Well, their consolidated total income hit 5,118 crore. So that's a 20% growth year on year. But what I think is even more telling is that their PBDIT, so that's profit before depreciation, interest, and taxes, that's a massive 53% increase, reaching 1,014 crore, which, suggests they're getting more efficient, which is huge, especially in this economic climate.
So it's not just about making more money, it's about making it smarter.
Exactly.
But with a company this diverse, the real story must be in how each business segment is doing.
Right. Absolutely. Breaking down the performance by segment will give us some better insights into the details.
Perfect. So looking at these charts, one thing jumps out. The estate and property development segment saw a huge EO jump in revenue. I mean, massive.
Yeah, Godrej Properties, so their real estate arm
Yeah.
is definitely killing it right now. And that jump, that's most likely because of new project acquisitions. They actually added 10 new projects just this year alone.
Right.
But, it's not just about buying up land. They're delivering on those projects too, and efficiently. They had record-breaking deliveries in Q2, really suggests a well-oiled machine when it comes to operations.
So growing but smart growth. Okay. Switching gears a bit, what about the chemicals segment? I'll admit, chemicals aren't quite as exciting as, shiny new buildings,
Right.
but they must be doing something right.
Oh, for sure. Chemicals are a solid performer for Godrej and really highlight how diversified they are. They specialize in fatty alcohols, fatty acids, glycerin, surfactants. You probably used a bunch of their products without even knowing it. Shampoos, detergents, even some food products use these.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how all these different industries are connected. Now, one thing I always find interesting is the consumer side of things. So Godrej Consumer Products, or GCPL for short, that's the part most of us probably know. Personal care products, household goods. What's the key takeaway from their performance?
They're seeing some really interesting shifts in consumer behavior, especially post-pandemic. Like their air fresheners and fabric care products are booming right now.
Yeah.
It seems hygiene and home comfort are still really important to a lot of consumers.
Thinking about it, I've definitely been more conscious of those things too in recent years. So yeah, it makes sense it's driving sales. But it's not just cleaning products though, is it? They have a big range of personal care stuff too.
Totally. And those are holding their own too. Double-digit growth in categories like deodorants, even sexual wellness products. Shows they're in tune with these changing lifestyles and demands.
It's cool to see how they're adapting to those changes. Now, onto a slightly different segment, Godrej Agrovet. That's where they get into animal feed, agricultural inputs, even the dairy industry. Quite a diverse portfolio.
Godrej Agrovet is a perfect example of how Godrej uses their diverse businesses to capitalize on what's happening in the market. This segment has benefited from good commodity prices, and they've also made some smart operational changes that have led to some pretty solid profit growth.
Okay, so we've got booming real estate, steady chemicals, innovative consumer goods, and a thriving agricultural business. It's painting a pretty positive picture for Godrej Industries.
The numbers definitely tell a good story of growth and adaptation. But, while the overall picture is positive, we should also look at the strategies driving these results and see if maybe, potentially, there are any challenges on the horizon.
Great point. It's just as important to understand the why as the what. So let's switch gears and talk about strategy. What's fueling this success, and are there any storm clouds gathering? Okay, so we've seen the numbers, they're impressive. But like you said, we need to understand the strategies behind those numbers. What is Godrej doing that's leading to this kind of success across all these different businesses?
Well, one key factor is their strategic investment approach. I mean, they've got a pretty substantial investment portfolio, and it's really paying off.
Yeah. I was looking at their holdings in Godrej Consumer Products and Godrej Properties, and wow, the market value compared to what they initially invested, we're talking massive appreciation.
Yeah, it shows they're good at picking winners.
Yeah.
Identifying businesses with high growth potential. And this approach, it doesn't just benefit them from, dividends or they sell later on, it also means they get to tap into the growth of those subsidiaries. So it strengthens their overall position even more.
It's kind of like a win-win. They get those direct financial gains, but then also the indirect benefits of those companies doing well. Pretty smart.
Exactly. It creates this sort of synergy where the success of one part helps fuel the others. And this strong performance, it hasn't gone unnoticed. CRISIL and ICRA, those are two major credit rating agencies, they've both upgraded Godrej Industries' long-term rating.
Wow, that's a big deal. That's a vote of confidence from the financial world. What does it actually mean for Godrej, though, practically?
Well, it means lenders see them as less risky. So it's easier, cheaper for them to get capital if they want to grow or expand more. It makes them more appealing to investors, too. A higher rating usually means stability. Positive outlook.
Good indicator that they're on solid ground financially then. But, any business, there's always going to be risks, challenges. What does Godrej need to watch out for moving forward?
Right. Well, no business operates in a vacuum, right? The global economic climate, it's always a factor. Inflation, geopolitical stuff, potential supply chain issues, all that can have an impact.
Yeah. Those are some big unknowns that could affect any business. Doesn't matter how well they're doing right now.
And with Godrej Industries, they've got such a global footprint. They're especially exposed to those kinds of trends, those macro trends.
So managing that risk, being able to adapt, that's
Yeah.
going to be key for them to keep this momentum going.
Oh, absolutely. Got to be agile, proactive, respond to those shifts in the global landscape. But it's not just about reacting to things outside their control, right? They have to keep innovating, evolving, stay ahead of the competition, and keep meeting those changing consumer demands.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of evolving, I saw they recently signed a business transfer agreement with Savannah Surfactants Limited. Sounds like a strategic move. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so basically they're acquiring Savannah's business that deals with food additives and emulsifiers. It's a way for Godrej to diversify what they offer, tap into a new market within the food and beverage industry.
So they're not just sitting back enjoying the current success. They're actively looking for more ways to grow. It's interesting, especially since they're already in the agriculture sector with Godrej Agrovet.
Right, it suggests they see a strategic opportunity there, leverage their existing expertise and infrastructure to get into a related but different market. It fits with their overall approach, identifying and capitalizing on those growth opportunities.
Okay, so we've got the smart investments, their strong financial standing, these proactive moves to get into new markets. But beyond just the business side, I'm curious about their commitment to sustainability, social responsibility. How does that play into their overall strategy?
Great question. You're right. It's not all about profits, is it? It's about operating ethically and responsibly. Godrej has integrated what's called ESG, environmental, social, and governance principles, into everything they do.
And what does that look like in real terms?
So they're focusing on reducing their environmental impact, adopting sustainable practices, minimizing waste. They're committed to ethical sourcing and fair labor practices, and they're active in giving back to the communities they work in.
It seems like more and more these days, consumers are looking for companies that share their values, especially things like sustainability, social impact. So this focus on ESG could also be a smart business move for Godrej, don't you think?
Definitely. Investors are paying more and more attention to ESG performance these days, and consumers are getting more careful about what brands they support. Companies that genuinely commit to these principles, they're likely to be more attractive to both.
Sounds like Godrej is checking a lot of boxes then. Strong financials, strategic expansion, commitment to sustainability, setting a high bar for the rest of the industry.
They're definitely a company to keep an eye on, especially as they navigate this, complex global landscape. But one question that comes to mind is, can they keep this up? Can they sustain this momentum with all the potential challenges, uncertainties out there?
Great question, and one that deserves a deeper look. So let's wrap up our deep dive by looking at the future for Godrej Industries. What are your thoughts? So we've covered a lot: Godrej's financial performance, their strategy, their commitment to sustainability. As we wrap up this deep dive, though, I keep thinking, what's next for Godrej Industries?
Well, it's tough to predict the future, but looking at where they are now, everything we've talked about, I'd say the outlook is cautiously optimistic. They've got a lot going for them. Strong core businesses, smart investments, a focus on innovation, and they're committed to responsible practices.
Seems like they're in a good position for continued success. But you said cautiously optimistic. So are there still some potential roadblocks?
Of course, like we talked about before, the global landscape, it's always changing. There are always unexpected challenges, economic volatility, geopolitics, supply chain disruptions, things like that could impact Godrej, just like any company with global operations.
So navigating all that uncertainty, that's going to be critical for them to keep up this momentum.
Yeah. Agility, adaptability, those are key. They have to be able to adjust their strategies, respond quickly if market conditions change, or if something unexpected happens.
Sounds like a balancing act, going after these ambitious growth goals, but staying flexible enough to adapt to whatever is thrown their way.
Exactly. And it's not just external factors either. They got to watch out for internal challenges too. Like, how do they keep that strong corporate culture as they grow? Make sure they've got the right people, the resources to support their expansion.
Those are important things to think about, especially for a company with so many different businesses and such a global reach. It's easy to lose sight of that stuff when you're focused on growth.
Right. And then there's their commitment to sustainability.
Yeah.
That adds another layer of complexity, right?
Right.
As they grow, can they keep up those high standards,
Yeah.
especially as they expand operations, move into new markets?
It's a complicated situation for sure, but it's a journey worth following. Their story has some really good lessons for anyone interested in business, investing, or just understanding how companies deal with the complexities of the world today.
Definitely. It really highlights the importance of thinking strategically, being adaptable, innovative, and having that long-term perspective. It's not just about making a quick buck. It's about creating a business that's sustainable and responsible for the future.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? Well, even if you're not directly invested in Godrej, their story is a great example. Shows how important diversification, strategic investments, and sustainability are, especially for success in today's business world.
And by looking at all the different things Godrej does, consumer goods, real estate, chemicals, agriculture, you get insights into the bigger economic trends that are shaping these industries.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that everything's connected. And the success of a company like Godrej can actually give us a peek into how the whole economy is doing.
Exactly. And as for Godrej Industries, well, they've shown they're capable of incredible growth and innovation. It will be really interesting to see where they go from here, how they handle the challenges and opportunities ahead.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Hope you found it informative, learned something new. But before we go, one last thing to think about. Godrej's got these big ambitions to grow, right? And this strong commitment to sustainability. So how are they going to balance those things? Can they keep growing while also minimizing their impact on the environment, upholding their social responsibilities? It's a tough question, no easy answers, but definitely something to consider as we watch this company evolve. Thanks for joining us.